Let's start letting people in. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good to have you joining us here at Piano Tech Radio Hour once again. This lovely August weekend, getting into the sort of academic season here. This is a good time of year for the piano industry. Usually, piano tuners here, we usually get a little bit of pickup in business because all the kids are back from summer vacation, get back into their piano lessons and stuff like that. The universities and whatnot start getting into gear and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's a good time. And now that we've got most people in, there's a few other people that are just rolling in. I'm just going to admit them. I want to say hi to everybody out there on Facebook and YouTube. And in a moment, I'll make a quick introduction to the program that you're joining, and then an introduction to our special guests and our topic at hand today. Yeah, so we're almost there. But I'll say right now, just generally welcome everyone to Piano Tech Radio Hour. And what we do here is each Saturday, and we've been doing this ever since the pandemic, actually, we meet with and learn from the most knowledgeable and fascinating folks in the piano world. And that could include everyone from a manufacturer, rebuilder, musician, a maker of other instruments. Of course, piano techs are often our guests. And then our mutual goal here is to become better at our craft, to help each other, to create a more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. That's an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And you can join Piano Tech Radio Hour by subscribing at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. That allows you to keep up with us, attend every live session, support the future growth of this fine production, and we're sure you'll appreciate it. And then also remember, every third Thursday of the month, we have a masterclass. And if you're a subscriber of our masterclass sessions, you'll get to attend those, review the recordings, and so on and so forth. We got some cool ones in the works with Joe from St. Louis. Joe Jackson, who's been with us before and has done some great lectures. We've had some stuff with Douglas Gregg recently, Larry Lobel, and I'll try to get some links in the chat about how you can check out those lectures individually or sign up for the subscription. But without further ado, I'd like to just sort of introduce our topic at hand. What I want to do off the bat, I'll get myself spotlighted today, and then I'll get Hannah Reimann spotlighted as well. So Hannah's been with us. If you attend the program, she's been here several times. Quite a fascinating guest because she's musical, a musician, but she has a passion for things that overlap with our nerdy piano proclivities, because she's on a mission to bring wider awareness and availability of what we're calling here stretto pianos, which is pianos that have keys that are designed to suit a smaller hand than you would typically be able to with our typical setups. And I've sort of phrased that carefully, right? Because it's not necessarily smaller than normal hands, right? There's pianos are kind of designed in a way that is sort of biased towards people with larger hands, especially some of the pieces that are composed and whatnot. So it's clearly it's a noble mission, and we support it. And of course, it tickles our nerdy side about all the technical aspects and sort of the industry aspects. So Hannah's brought some friends today, which I'm going to hand the program over to. They're going to host the session primarily. I'll be here kind of behind the scenes for technical support. But welcome, Hannah. Tell us what's up with you and what you plan to bring to the table today.
Thank you so much, Ethan. It's wonderful to be back here again. And, jump on if you have questions in the midst of hearing our wonderful guests, part of our extended international Stretto piano community. Their names are Julia Ferlin, who is my assistant and administrator for Stretto piano concerts, a fine pianist, music educator, and she also is very skilled with online video and media, which she can tell you about too if she wants to. And Eliana Yee, who is an excellent pianist and music educator who is in the Seattle, Washington area. I've known her for 3 years, I believe, and have enjoyed her performances at our festivals since 2021. And someone new to our community, Julia Siciliano, who's located in Chicago. I'm extremely excited to have met her recently and to talk to her about her new experiences with Stretto pianos. So just a couple of things before I hand this over to Julia Ferlin. I wanted to let everybody know that we have been experiencing a nice audience viewership, over around 10,000 views of our YouTube and Facebook streams of the 27 concerts for artists from 5 continents for the Stretto Piano Festival 2023, which ended on July 23rd. We have an anonymous donor who is willing to give $25,000 if those $25,000 will be matched by other donors. So we don't have a time limit on that yet, but that's just something very new and exciting. And I'm going to put the donation link in the chat as I sign off. So without any further to do.
Wait, we have to address your background. Well, no, 2 things. I will say, Julia, we'll have to hang out a little bit. Of course, I'm here in the Chicago area as well. And while we're talking about locations, you have such a beautiful location there. Tell us where you are. What's going on?
Okay,
You're in some sort of fairy forest.
I am on beautiful Vinyl Haven, Maine island, which is this small lobstering community, although the second largest lobstering community in the world. It provides lobsters for people all over the place. And I have a family cottage here where I've come to this island since I was about 4 years old. I've been picking mushrooms and blackberries and just chilling out and trying to decompress after this very, very exciting year of Stretto piano stuff. But I really haven't stopped working. So I'm much more relaxed than I am in New York City, but I'm looking forward to like actually possibly unplugging my devices on Monday or Tuesday, even just for, 5 days or something, because there's so many exciting things happening for us in the Stretto world. And if I don't stop, I'm going to burn myself out. So I love it here. This is the view from our cottage.
Oh, wow.
I've
Even
been
better.
watching otters and seals. They finally showed their faces, and a great blue heron. Yeah, I am. This is where I'm really the best version of myself. So maybe we'll have a piano festival out here one day.
Cool. Well, I will say briefly, you're reminding me of our friends in Martha's Vineyard. I'm sure, it takes a while to get from one place to the other over there on the East Coast, but yeah, we have some great piano technicians over in Martha's Vineyard, particularly David Stanwood. We've done some master classes with him, and he took me out on his boat around there and kind of reminded me of that, as well as Boaz. What's that? Come on out. I will.
Yeah, bring your family over. Yeah, you'll love it.
Yeah. And then Boaz Kirchenbaum is also on Martha's Vineyard. And he's a pretty well-respected voicing expert who actually helped launch our whole program here with the first masterclass. But yeah, I know we've got a lot of content to get to, so I don't want to get too distracted. So why don't you go ahead and hand it over, and I'll let you guys take the reins.
Okay, without further ado, this is Julia Ferlin.
All right, excellent. Let's add the spotlight for her, and I'll pull you in the background. Does that sound about right? Okay. All right, go ahead, Julia.
Hey, Ethan. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Our fearless leader, Hannah, has just really brought us into her community and widened it immensely. And we're just so happy to be here at the Piano Tech Radio Hour. It was so funny that you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast that this is a busy time for piano techs as schools start back up and everyone has to get their pianos worked on. It's funny you mention that because today we're going to be talking about stretto pianos more in a university and college setting and an educational setting. Myself, Eliana, and Julia have all worked on stretto pianos within our degrees, and we wanted to get that perspective of the instrument today. So I'm really excited. I think we're gonna, if we can, spotlight Eliana also. That would be wonderful, because we're gonna start off with her and just hearing her journey with the instrument and how she discovered it, what degree she got with it, and all of that wonderful stuff. So Eliana, welcome.
Hi, well, I'm welcome to be here. And my audio is coming in through another thing, but I think that everyone can hear me clearly. Okay. So yeah, I met this keyboard when I was 18. Until then, I was, of course, struggling to play piano. My hands are very small, and I'm sure that you have all been talking about this topic already. But for me, I was younger. I was 18 and I was looking for music colleges, and I was getting rejected straight up at auditions because I couldn't play octaves. And the professors were very nice and caring and gentle, but they were watching me struggle, and they were like, you could be a Bach and Mozart specialist. Just that, and not play anything past like maybe 18, 20. So it was very discouraging, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I love performing, I love playing, but maybe I should do something else. And then I was looking into that, and then I heard about these keyboards in SMU in Dallas, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, where my professor, Dr. Carol Leone, specialized in teaching on this keyboard that I actually now own as well. And that was a total game changer. I was able to finally play the repertoire that I needed to play to be a classical pianist. And I also learned a lot of technique too. So there's a whole lot of history to get into, but that's the basic of where I came from.
So did you basically spend your entire degree on the stretto piano?
Yes. I mean, we in our school, we had the 3 sizes. So we had, of course, conventional instruments that everyone played on. And then we had the medium size, which I played on for some things. And then we had what I have here is the 5.5 size, which is the smallest. And that became my preferred one. And then it became the only one I wanted to play on. I would play on the regular size, but you would have to convince me and be like, there is no piano keyboard that's smaller, so you have to play on it. Then I will play on it. But even with Mozart, even with Bach and all the small stuff, I prefer this keyboard. In fact, if I could go smaller, that would be great. It's just so comfy to just like your hands to just hug the keyboard instead of stretching out. So
were you one of the only ones who did it solely on stretto, or were there multiple?
We had a couple other students. I had another colleague. She was Japanese and she was also teeny tiny, and we both played on this small keyboard mainly. Other students would come by and try the smaller keyboard. A lot of students with bigger hands, they would go down to the medium size to play like Rachmaninoff and Brahms. In our school, we had the 3 sizes available in a concert setting. So they were kept only for, our performance hall. They were not practice pianos. And we had a technician who would have to change it every single time. Every time someone asked, I want to play on that smaller size, he would have to change it. And he has actually, sorry.
How long would that take usually? Do you know?
For him, it would take like 3 minutes.
That's crazy. Oh my God. Okay.
We had we had a table that rolled so that you could switch out the keyboards very easy. You slide it out and slide it back in. I'll slide mine out. But yeah, so he would just slide it out and then insert the other size into the piano. And he did it. I know how to do it, but of course, since they're school pianos, I didn't touch the action. But oh gosh, he would have to do it every single time though. So
Hey, I mean, if it makes giving, pianists a choice of keyboard size, it's worth the effort. It's more work for him that he's there, he's getting paid. Like, I don't know, it sounds like a win-win to me.
yeah, I mean, imagine like we had several performance halls, and then we had 3 different sizes, and he had to kind of maintain them all.
Wow.
But it was such a luxury at our school for the pianist to be like, I want to play on the Steinway with the 6.0, and then like midway through my recital, I want to change it out, which I did a couple times. Like there was one piece where I wanted a little bigger, one piece where I want a little smaller, so you can customize your program. Anyway.
That's pretty unheard of. I mean, there are, I think I want to say around 15 schools at this point around the world that have alternative size keyboards. But it's pretty unheard of for it to be that extensive of a choice. Like usually they have 1 or 2 pianos and they're like stuffed in a little practice room that no one knows about, and you have to like go and seek out the Stretto piano. But the fact that SMU had those like such ready at hand options, that's just amazing.
Yeah, we even made it available for our any events that were going on, like our competition, our international competition. We would let the performers, and the performers would come not knowing, and we're like, okay, which size do you want? And they're like, what? You mean like length of the grand piano? And we're like, no, the keys. And what's unbelievable is that they'll see it and then they'll be like, oh, I want the smaller size. And then they're competing. It takes them like 2 days to adjust, and then they just do it. And it's pretty neat. I don't have that confidence.
That's so funny. Wait, speaking of not knowing the keyboard size, didn't you have a funny story with your piano tech working on?
Oh, yeah. So I moved to this area, and I think that I am the only pianist in Seattle, because we have one in Victoria Island in Canada, but I am the only pianist in the Pacific Northwest who has this customized action. And I called a technician, and I didn't tell him anything about my action. I just wanted him to come when my piano got moved in, and I wanted him to check, make sure everything was okay. And so he just came into my house, and I didn't even say anything. And I just was like, all right, can you like tune my piano? And he saw the action and he like froze for a second. Can I switch cameras so that I can kind of angle it a little bit more? I'm sure they've already seen it. They already know what it looks like, but can you spotlight my other camera?
Give me a second. My Zoom is acting up here. Let me check into that.
I can just pin it, right? Let's see. There you go.
Oh yeah, if you can, great.
Got it. Perfect. Eliana, go ahead.
Oh, when you pin something, other people can't. It's just pinned for you personally.
No. Oh, darn.
You have to spotlight. Yeah.
No.
Is
Ethan,
spotlight an option for you?
not.
Okay, let me check.
Sorry.
Okay. I mean, it's not such a big deal. They can find
We're
me.
almost there. 1 second. All right, Eliana. Add spotlight. How's that?
Looks okay for me. Yep. Great.
Did that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm just
he-
putting this over. Yeah, so he saw the way that the these, I think they're called hammer levers or hammer. I don't know. I took one class on piano tech. I took one piano technician class, learned how to tune a piano, and never did it because it's really hard. But he saw the way that these angled, and he was like, "Wait a second!" And then he saw the tiny keys, and he was like, he just froze for a second, stared at the piano, and then he began working on it because, obviously he knows what he's doing. And then afterward, I was like, all right, so how much does it cost? Like, let me pay you. And he was like, no pay. Thanks for showing me the action. I'll come back next time. So I actually got his service for free, but I think it was because it was a novelty for him. He was old. He's been in the industry for a while. So I'm definitely recommending him to all my students, and he's been taking good care of my action. And he calls it the tiny action because he's Korean. So
And it's so cool that you can.
Now's a good moment to mention that if people want to ask questions or something like that, you can just start putting them in the chat. Of course, if anybody wants, to take a look at something in particular about the action, you can just mention it in the chat and we'll open things up at a later time for interaction if people are interested. And if the interest isn't expressed, then we'll just continue with other stuff. But it's good to mention.
Yeah. I could also completely pull this out, and if anyone wants to see something in particular, like that's fine, because it took a little bit of effort to take this apart. So
yeah, I think people want to see it. Let's do it.
okay. I need to do this super carefully so that I don't stress out a bunch of piano technicians. All right. And it's just gonna slide very nicely to my bench.
Nice.
And I want the best possible camera angle. So let's see. All right. Well, this is the action. And that's the hammer. You can see how they're angling out. And then it kind of it's very custom made. You can see that it's different at the end. Everything has been individually measured. So lots of care. I did not commission this action. This was a different owner and I bought it from her. So I don't know the very specific details of how all this was done. She did tell me that, oh yeah, thank you. Now I can. I'm sorry, it's so wobbly. So she did say that she had to send her original action. This is a Yamaha G3, and she had to send the action of her Yamaha G3 across the country. And then they took measurements of it, and then they sent her the action back, and then proceeded to build the. So the top rack is all original. This is from the Yamaha, but all this stuff is custom made.
That's so awesome, Eliana. It's really
crazy. So
to...
actually I have the original Yamaha action under my bed right now, but it's missing a top rack. So
okay.
My next goal is to actually ask a technician to give me another top rack so that I can then change out these actions. And now I have two sizes for anyone. So now I'll have two pianos,
Yeah, two for the price of one. Why not?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not looking at the chat, so I don't really know. I can check.
You're answering the questions. Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions while she has the action out?
I would say briefly, I don't know how familiar various retailers of pianos are on kind of how that whole process runs down. I mean, I do. So I'm kind of curious if anybody here knows, you may not, how people who might have a piano retailer are treating this. Are they just telling everybody, hey, if you want, we can try to get this to happen? Because I guess ultimately you can try to sell any piano based on this modification, because it's really just a matter of ordering the custom action and getting it installed in the piano. So it feels pretty easy to offer it as an option to customers.
Ethan.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think something really quickly. So some retailers actually refuse to do it still.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more visibility that we have as an entity of concert players, we may gather steam on that. But I have inquired with several places in New York City. I'm still waiting to hear back from one that says they're very interested. Another one just says we can't do that now. And another one, I mean, this is part of what I do with my time. So I just wanted to fill in there. It's not unanimous yet, but we are working on it as a community.
Absolutely. So we have another question. Is the action standard only the keys are tapered? Eliana, is that correct?
Yes. I'm going to fudge the terms and the specific words, but yeah, so I'll try my best with the knowledge I know. The action here is
That's the action stack.
Yeah, the action stack. I believe that this is Yamaha who made this part, but it's just this area that is concerned with how the action connects to the keys and the keyboard itself. That is custom made by, and this one is custom made by Steinbuehler and Company. I have a friend who also got their piano, same thing done through Cunningham Pianos, and he's been satisfied by their work too. So what are the other questions?
Is there any uneven?
So-
That's interesting.
Consequence of severely dog-legged keys is anywhere. So this action was built in 2008. I play on this for many hours a day. I have so far not experienced any of those issues, but that's definitely something to think about. I'll in fact take note of that and just make sure that it's going to be taken care of.
And I'm sure your piano tech will also keep an eye out every time he comes to make sure everything's looking.
Yeah, I have so far been completely satisfied. No issues with anywhere. Though I don't, no one else uses this piano other than me. So I don't have students who are, constantly playing on it all hours of the day.
Sure.
Yeah. It's been totally fine.
Amazing. Do you mind giving us an insight on how much it cost? We have a couple questions in there.
Yeah, I bought this piano from someone I knew, so I don't think that even counts. I believe that the last time I emailed Steinbuehler, because I was going to ask him to do it from scratch, he told me that it was only $18,000, and that was back in 2019. The Steinbuehler is a foundation, so they probably do not charge like a whole market rate. They probably they're out there to just help pianists. So
they do a lot of loans and they like loan instruments to a lot of people and institutions, and they're on a mission for sure. Yeah.
So my original idea was to actually buy a really old piano and whose action needs to be rebuilt anyway. And then I was going to then have Steinbuehler make me an action for me. And then he said that would cost $18,000.
Action, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that includes the shipping though. I know the shipping is a whole ordeal. You have to ship this entire thing over to him. And I think he's in like Pennsylvania or something. Maybe I'm not right about that. I forgot.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for showing us that. That's really, really wonderful to see the inner workings of it. Amazing.
I think Hana has more info too.
So the DSR offers a loan for 1 year free of charge to institutions. Then the institution has the option to purchase it for $10K, but don't quote her on that price. I'm sure it depends on every situation and all that stuff. So
yeah, it's $18K only for the action, not for the piano. And I believe it's a different price for uprights versus grand pianos. And it's also a different price if you want to be able to pull it out like I just did, then and exchange the size. That's what I wanted. That's why it was $18K. If it was going to be permanently that size and you couldn't pull it out and change it, then it would be cheaper. So there's lots of different options.
Yeah, because I guess some people just want the Stretto forever and they don't need the option of pulling it out. So that could work for some people. And then some people want the option of taking it and exchanging it. So that's awesome. Very, very cool. Okay, so Eliana, I don't want you to keep your action out the whole time for you. But so you have been teaching on this instrument, right? You have a whole studio. Can you tell us a little bit about like how the students react to that? Like obviously now that you're out of school, you've got your degree on the Stretto, how are you using this instrument for your career and how are your students reacting to it?
Yeah, so right now I'm living in a tiny apartment, and so I don't have students coming to me, but occasionally I do invite my younger kids, because when you are a piano teacher, you're trying to teach them um, good hand position, but then they have these like little sausage fingers and these Play-Doh hands, and you're like 5 finger position on the keys, then they have to stretch out, and so their position collapses. And so I like having the first few lessons on my keyboard, even if they're not going to use it, just to show them this is what it feels like to have a rounded hand position. This is what it feels like when you grow up. And then I also at SMU, I was in the pedagogy program. So I had a whole bunch of students in the teaching lab, and I continuously had lessons with them for years. The kids would adjust just fine. Like they wouldn't even know the difference, you know? And I always gave them the opportunity to choose. I'd be like, do you want to play on the big piano or the other piano? And they always consistently chose the small size. They love the small keyboard, and they would actually go out of their way to ask me to play on it. So,
Wow.
so I think there's such a great potential here for the teaching community too, to have these keyboards. And I am actually about to present at teacher conferences and stuff. So I don't mean to totally distract from our topic. I do have a question for piano technicians, actually, because I do want to present my action so that people could see it in person, because that makes such a difference. I don't know how to build a case that could safely transport this action.
Question.
Just
Wow.
the action, not the whole piano.
Right.
Anyway, if someone could just like, if someone wants to connect with me so that they can explain to me how it's done, like I will pay a consultation fee, because I do not want this action to undergo any harm or stress. And if it's not even doable, then I won't do it. But
Well, lucky for you, Hannah just put in the chat that she has one. So there you go.
okay, maybe we could talk then, because like I've been mulling over this issue for weeks. Anyway, this is my action. It's my baby.
Sweet. Thank you so much. That's really cool. It's funny that you said a lot of your students like always would choose a smaller keyboard. I think they did a study. They did a study at the University of Sydney in Australia, and it was a study of 24 pianists, and they gave them the option, like over a period of time, to choose which instrument they played, and all but one would always choose the smaller keyboards. And it's pretty crazy. Like even there was another study in University of North Texas, and it said when they surveyed all of their piano students, 75% of them wish they had a bigger hand. And just think that like how wonderful would it be if 75% of those students had the option like you did at SMU to play on the Stretto. It's just, yeah, it's pretty wild.
I would not have graduated without this keyboard. Yeah, I would have had to switch to some other music field, which would not be the end of the world. I love music, but I do know my personality. Performing and teaching is where I need to be. I would not have done as stellar in any other music field. It's where I feel myself. And so this keyboard let me be myself instead of having to run away and do another field of music and just feel like I sort of made it, you know? So yeah, that makes such a difference. Now I think we should kind of bounce over to you a little bit, because yours, the way that you went through this is so different. And I kind of got a little bite-sized version of what you went through with, I did a workshop. Julia was actually my instructor for a little bit of it. So we could go into that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I came to Stretto pianos, unfortunately, a little from an injury side. So when I was in college, as we probably all know, when you're getting a performance degree, you're practicing like 6 or 7 hours a day. You're playing way more than you probably should. And I was playing music that was written by and for large adult male hands. And just like you, do not have those. and like Liszt, Rachmaninoff, that's pretty standard when you're going and getting your performance degree. You have to play that for juries and concerts and whatnot. And the piece that stands out the most is the Rachmaninoff Prelude in Opus 23, B flat major. And it's just like stretching the whole time. It's loud, it's big. And my third year of college, I started getting some really gnarly tendonitis in my forearms. And it just spiraled into this playing related injury, and it was an injury of overuse. And when you think about it, you have, oh, Ethan, can we spotlight me again? I'm sorry. So we're just not looking at Eliana's thing, or did I? Hold on.
Yes, I'll get that working.
Thank you. To make a long story short, after going to years of physical therapy and acupuncture and taking anti-inflammatories, some of the doctors I went to literally just told me to stop playing. They were like, there's no hope. You're just digging yourself into a bigger and bigger hole. Your best bet is to just give up. And after playing since I was 4 years old, I was like, well, that's not really an option. And I'm 3 years into my degree and I couldn't just pick up and leave, really. I got through the degree with a lot of pain meds, if I'm being completely honest. And at the end, when I graduated, I was like, okay, my time with piano is over. It has been a nice ride, but I don't want to play through pain anymore. It's just not really enjoyable. The joy has been taken out of it. And I had a friend, thank God for him, told me about this program in North Carolina at Salem College. It's this small liberal arts, all female school, if you can imagine. And they have a program that focuses on injury preventive piano technique. And there's a specific master's and a certificate program for that. And the program's known for this teacher, Dr. Barbara Listersink, and she takes in injured pianists and basically like rehabs them and completely redoes your technique. So a complete overhaul. So the craziest thing was when I got on the phone with her to, talk about the program. This was like my Hail Mary. This is the last effort I could do. It was that or quitting, basically. And she's chatting, she's saying, we can definitely help out your technique and try to get you to a more pain-free place. And she mentioned, if you're saying you have tendonitis, we have this piano with narrow keys at the school. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? You have a piano with what? I had never heard of these instruments ever. And by that, I was 22. And, I felt at the time it was excited and curious and all those positive feelings. And then on the other hand, I was, a little bit angry. I had considered myself having a pretty top-notch music education, went to Manhattan School of Music for pre-college, had all these great teachers, went up north to McGill for my undergrad. I had all these wonderful pedagogues that were so knowledgeable, and nobody knew about these instruments. Or if they knew, no one told anybody about it. And I couldn't help but think, oh my gosh, if I had known about this option, what injuries could I have avoided? So anyway, moved down to North Carolina, go to this school. And I remember touching this piano for the first time and playing it, and playing that exact Rachmaninoff Prelude and like crying. And I know it sounds dramatic and sounds a little emotional, but it felt 20 million times better. That it was just an eye-opening experience that, oh my gosh, this was fit for me. This was made for me. It wasn't, I don't have to manipulate my body and overstretch my body to fit an instrument that was standardized for people with large hands. So yeah, I got my degree using both the conventional and the stretto. So I'd play and practice a lot on the stretto any day that I was like feeling a little tense in my forearms. And I don't know if anyone's really interested in like really the injury anatomy side of stuff, but you've got your extensors on the top side of your forearm, and then your flexors on the bottom. And your extensors are the ones that are responsible for this motion, also lifting your fingers. And then your extensor digitorum, which is like kind of in the middle, that's the one responsible for spreading your fingers. Obviously, you have hand muscles in there doing that too, but the majority of the work is being done in your forearm, actually. So when you are constantly spreading your hands for years and years and years, that gets overused quite a bit. And when I tell you practicing on the Stretto alleviated my tendonitis tenfold, like obviously I was still going to a lot of PT and all that good stuff, but it was really wild to see such a difference just with that narrow key. So, you know, not to make it male versus female by any means, but then, you know, I started reading into it, and female pianists are twice as likely to have playing related injuries. Usually there's like a 1 inch difference between a male and a female size hand, which is like a pretty much a whole white key, or even a little more than that. So that's quite a lot. And then you start looking into all the competitions, and it's always a male winner. And, you know, there's all this information that starts pouring into you once you figure out that these pianos exist. And rather than just be angry about it, you know, you have to be proactive. And that's what we're doing with the Stretto piano concerts and the festival. It's not about, you know, just, oh, we're angry, we need more of these pianos. It's about getting people just informed, because once they are informed about it, you know, people are way more accepting, and they get the whole thing. So yeah, I didn't do the whole program on the Stretto. We didn't have one that you can concertize on. Ours was just like in a practice room. But people would always be like, oh my God, how do you switch back and forth? You know, isn't it so hard? As you said, it's really not. It would take me like 20 minutes. And we'd have a conventional and a Stretto in the same room. And I'd flip back and forth, and you get used to it. And the main thing that you have to deal with, like calibrating, is leaps and jumps. But I did my master's recital after like 2.5 years on the conventional keyboard, and felt like the best I had felt in absolute ages. You know, it's a combination of retraining and getting a new technique, but the Stretto absolutely was, I wouldn't have graduated without it. Most days I'd practiced on it, and it saved my little extensors. So that's my spiel. And I am currently in the market for one, hopefully saving up, because I just play on my keyboard at the moment. I live in a tiny apartment in Brooklyn. So eventually that will be the goal. Hannah, yeah, what's up?
So I just want to let everybody know that Julia and I are both planning on making recordings on my piano this fall, and that the piano's in a recording studio. So I'm really, really excited to hear her play her repertoire for the first time. She performed at the festival, Four Hands, with the great Roger Lord as an encore, and it will be such a thrill to hear her make some music in fall 2023. So look forward to that, everybody. We're going to put the Stretto Spotify playlist together once we're all equipped. Just a little aside.
That's amazing. I'm so excited. Yeah, I think the only other thing I wanted to mention was, you know, we're talking about universities and schools and such. It's only a matter of time. Like, the more this gets out and the more people learn about this, the schools are going to have to catch up. And if I can, like, one of my goals with the Stretto pianos, if we can get a few, even in the bigger major conservatories, and save a couple female pianists from going through what I went through, I will be happy about it. You know, like, that's why I'm so passionate about this, because, you know, I can't even tell you the thousands of dollars, and I'm not asking for sympathy by any means, but the hours at doctors and all the money you pour into, like, getting yourself to feel better, when, you know, maybe if I had known about the Stretto piano when I was in pre-college and starting to learn harder rep, it could have, you know, saved me in the long run. So, you know, if anybody knows administrators or piano faculty at major conservatories, and I'm sure piano techs you do, mention the Stretto piano. Why don't you have one? You know, and we can try to get as many in schools, because I think once more students, you know, play on them, then they graduate, and then they advocate for them, and it's kind of like a domino effect. So, you know, that's the thing. Speaking of the community, we have our new member, the other Julia. I'm so excited to have her here. And Julia, yeah, we actually haven't really met before, so we'd love to hear your experience with the Stretto, what you've, you know, how'd you learn about it? Give us the go.
First of all, I'm just emotionally overwhelmed by your story. It really resonated with me. I love hearing it. I feel very similarly in a lot of ways. I'm currently going through that PT. I'm getting PT, getting acupuncture, whatever it takes. And thanks to our lovely U.S. healthcare system, I'm paying out of pocket for most of it. Again, it's whatever it takes. This is my life. This is my career. My story is dissimilar to yours and Eliana in the sense that I am 40 years old and I've only just played on my first Stretto piano a few weeks ago. I heard about them a couple of years ago on a Zoom lecture given by a colleague, Tina Chong, who's just an incredible pianist and also has tiny hands. And when she simply like knowing about them, it was a revelation. And then finally getting to play one for the first time. I was lucky to be visiting my parents in Michigan, and at the University of Michigan, they have one of the High Loon instruments on loan. They actually have two. They have a 5.5 inch and a 6-inch keyboard. And so I walked in and I went and tried them out. And the first one I tried out was the 5.5 inch. And I'm not going to lie, it was a bit of an Alice in Wonderland experience. I definitely felt like a giant, but actually I did adjust relatively quickly. I played a Mozart sonata on it and it was interesting and perfectly fine. I tried to do some of my more virtuosic rep, Chopin impromptu. I jumped over to the 6-inch piano, and that moment has changed my life forever, because that's my size. I felt it instantly. I was able to play almost immediately my entire program. I was giving a recital later that week. And it's just an overwhelming feeling, because something that just fits that you didn't know existed is just suddenly perfect. And now, ever since then, I haven't played on one of those pianos since that day, but ever since then I've just been frustrated on my own beautiful Steinway A. But I'm so frustrated because of the feel of everything. And I want my 6-inch now that I know it exists. So I was really excited to be introduced to Hannah and Julia and now Eliana, thanks to Tina Chong, and to learn about this amazing community, these amazing Stretto piano concerts, which I hope to become involved in someday. I hope to have the opportunity to bring Stretto pianos to Chicago so that I can perform on one. And also, Eliana was making the point about education, and I'm also I'm a concert pianist, but I'm also a studio teacher, and I have some 6 and 7-year-olds with normal size hands for a 6 and 7-year-old, which is tiny. And yeah, the frustration of having to develop a good hand position while playing, a triad is difficult. It's, they develop bad habits immediately. And, it takes years to undo bad habits. Yeah, that's basically my story. I mean, I can say a little bit about my experiences. Like, I have played most of the standard rep, but I don't play that much Rachmaninoff. And it's not because I don't love Rachmaninoff. It's that it's pain. It hurts. It's a big challenge. I did in 2020. I was one of the lucky few to continue performing in that pandemic year, because I was living in Spain, and the cultural minister of the Basque country in Spain prioritized cultural events. So I got to put on a complete accompanied sonatas of Beethoven in 9 concerts that year. And that was one of my big projects. And it was great. It went really well. So I thought, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do the complete piano chamber music of Brahms. That was also great, but physically much less great. It nearly broke me. And I'm wondering if that project is why I have had so many issues recently. Brahms is known for the lush quality, these rich, fully fleshed out chords. Like we talk about, I can reach a ninth, or I can reach an octave, or not even an octave in Eliana's case. But we don't even think about all the time, octave chords with 4 notes in them. I would have to rewrite a lot of the music because I couldn't actually play all of the notes in the chords, especially the fast moving chords. So I'd have to rewrite, which, takes away from the lushness of the music. And, and I still tried my hardest, and I would still hurt myself for every concert. So, I mean, I could go on, but that's my story. And I am so grateful to know that my story doesn't have to end, that I can keep playing the repertoire that I adore and learn Rachmaninoff and, really get into it and more contemporary music. So thank you, Anna, and everybody.
Let me make a quick remark about Rachmaninoff. That word has come up, that name has come up so many times in 2023 that we have decided to have a plan to create a Rachmaninoff, his friends and contemporaries, as an event in January or February 2024. Everybody help us out, okay? Because this time we can't do it with me alone, taking care of everything, but we'll do it whether we do it in a recording studio or in concert halls or virtually. We're going to take on Rachmaninoff. He had not a large hand. This man had an enormous hand that could reach from C to A. That's a 13th. That is not, even people with large hands were coming up to my piano after the live concerts in New York City and saying, I want to try this Rachmaninoff. Let's see if I can do the Rachmaninoff without leaving something out. So please join us, Julia Siciliano. We're so happy to have you with us. And it will be great to continue this conversation with all of you. And also next month, we already have 9 professors from conservatories and universities all over the world who are going to participate in Piano Tech Radio Hour on the last Saturday, September 30th. And Ethan and I will share more about that with you. So why don't we bring Ethan back on, unless any one of the lovely women who were here today, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think thank you so much for
Okay. Sorry, just one quick thing I forgot to mention is that I had been playing a lot and I have been paying a lot. As you know, I've been going to PT recently, but I practiced for 4 hours that day on the DS pianos and I didn't have 1 second of pain. So thank you all. Thank you, Ethan. This is great.
Awesome. Ethan, you're muted.
Gotcha. Thank you. It's been a great time today. Thank you so much for sharing. And it was really great. We got a good angle on your personal piano, Eliana. So that was very nice. Appreciate that. And I'll add spotlights for everyone that spoke today. Just so folks can see everyone. But great stories. It's interesting, in this day and age, I internally have these thoughts. I studied statistics as part of my PhD that I did in biology and neuroscience. And it got me thinking about just kind of like the evolution of how we think about our society and our world. And I had this kind of thought that there is a period of time where we started to learn about like the normal distribution. And I don't think I ever read that book. There's like a book called like The Bell Curve or something, right? And and it's a very exciting concept. Mathematically, scientifically, it's fascinating that this phenomenon exists, that like statistically, all these natural phenomenon are defined by an equation that forms a curve that involves like pi and e. I mean, it's fascinating. It's so cool that happened. And then, we've developed this concept of normal. And in terms of products and services, I think in the past, they've been geared towards whatever's right there in the middle, whatever's right there in the middle of that distribution. That's the kind of products and services that are going to work. So we're going to put those out in the market, yada, yada. And I think that was a great step in our evolution of kind of a society. And at the same time, I think we're getting into a new era here, in the past few decades and moving forward. We're going, well, what about at the ends of that bell curve? What about the folks at the high end and the low end? They exist, and I've always actually been fascinated with the fact that if you look at like the high end of the bell curve, that's the overachievers. They're not normal. You know what I mean? And so I think we're just having the opportunity now, as technology evolves, as we're able to make more, acute connections between individuals and companies and services and organizations and stuff. I think we can be continuing to evolve to develop specialized approaches for everyone. So this is right along those lines. Just wanted to add my little nerdy comment about that. But thank you everyone for joining. I put some links in the chat, both on the social media and in the chat here on Zoom, of our recent masterclass with Doug Gregg on cross-trade tools. Very fascinating. If you want to think about how you can fix pianos the same way he thinks about pinning broken bones, then hey, that's fascinating, right? He applied all sorts of interesting techniques and tools from various domains to the piano with great success, very creative stuff, and also just changes your way of thinking. So I would definitely recommend grab that class with Doug Gregg or subscribe so you can get it in the content library. I put a feedback link in the chat, a place to subscribe to the podcast as well. The podcast is going really well. And an upcoming guest on Piano Tech Radio Hour will be a Belgian company that we did accidentally promote for this masterclass, for this radio hour recently. But yeah, Pianos Maine will be a feature next week, where they're doing straight sung pianos, bringing them into this century, as well as do some fascinating stuff with piano design. And I thought of them for two reasons. One, because we'll be rebroadcasting, not rebroadcasting, but broadcasting a recording because of the different time zone. We had to do a recording off of Saturday, but also they're in Belgium, and our podcast is popular in Belgium. We've seen it's top in the charts in the performing arts categories in Apple in Belgium. So yeah, check out the podcast. So yeah, I'll just do a little sign off here. Thank you again to everyone for joining us on Piano Tech Radio Hour, and we'll see you again next week. Appreciate you for joining us, both the sort of featured guests here as well as the guests in the audience. And we'll see you again next time. All right, have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.